So what happens when legislature can't do their fucking job?
Oh, man, we're going to be bleeping all kinds of things, aren't we?
The Citizens Act and put it on the ballot. And that's exactly what is happening in Ohio.
Yeah. And, I mean, you and I are kind of excited about this.
Yes.
Because, honestly, I'm sorry, but our state legislators have had bills, multiple bills, for the last 3 years, trying to address this issue, never could come to a decision, didn't make any votes, and all of the people in the smaller communities, those little districts, were putting together these ideas of, hey, we need to address this, but no one plan could come together. And it's taken enough time where now finally our state AG, Yost, put it out there and has approved this to go to a public vote. So it's been approved for that. Our Ohio Taxpayer Protection Coalition is the official name of it. And obviously this is something that's backed by chambers, it's backed by Ohio realtors, it's backed by your local realtors associations, and probably by the majority of the people.
Well, hasn't in the past the Ohio Supreme Court said the way that the tax is structured in Ohio is illegal?
Well,
and then they did nothing to change it.
They did not.
And just common sense. Why do you have to buy something and then continue to pay tax on it every single year? It's not like when you go to the store and you buy a bag of chips and then every single year you got to rebuy that tax on those bag of chips.
Or every time you eat one?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be horrible.
Right?
But what has been the pushback from a lot of the community leaders is that, well, how do we fund our schools? How do we fund these programs? How do we do this? And if we don't have this property tax coming in, then this is an issue. Well, when we started looking into this, we had John McManus here, our treasurer, obviously a great sense of understanding, and he was even accepting of the fact or acknowledging the fact that, school boards may have to look at things a little differently. You may not be able to base your funding on these property taxes.
And I think, so on a federal level, we hear about DOGE all the time, but that is forcing these municipalities and schools to clean up the extra fat. And
absolutely.
Why, why are we doing this line item budgeting where you have to buy all new office furniture every year because you have that in the budget? Like, let's cut that out.
Common
and then
sense.
That can go to programs for kids or into salaries or whatever.
And it just makes my head spin with all the things, like when the lottery first came to Ohio, whenever that was, it was presented as an opportunity for our schools to make money and be given these funds. And it was presented to be millions of dollars over the period of time. That would probably be with a B, right? It would be billions of dollars. And yet, have we really seen the impact in our schools based off of that?
No, because people in California keep winning.
Well, I think there was an Ohio person that won recently. I don't know.
But it's never like the multiple billion-dollar one. It's always in California.
So is that promise of funds from the lottery based off of the winning ticket or just off of the sales? Because I think it's off of the sales.
But I just wanted to throw it out there that every time there's a winner, it's always in California.
Well, okay. Well, we won't go there. But back to this.
Yeah, and if we're talking about, collecting taxes, what just became legal in Ohio?
It would be a great opportunity to make some money.
People love the garden, and how many people can actually buy it legally and then use those taxes to fund the schools or to fund whatever?
Well, and that's the thing. But even more is another factor in this is we've got all these new constructions going on, right? Housing developments that are coming in. When the developer gets that bid and is winning that, they're getting a waiver on paying property tax.
Why?
So that's to entice the builder to want to build there and
they're
build
going to want to build anyway.
Exactly. So that's the issue that I have. If you have 70 new homes that are coming into this development, and the builder is getting the benefit, the biggest benefit, let's be honest, of taking and parceling those out and selling them, constructing, and then making all of this money off of them. If that house is a $700,000 price point, but the builder hasn't had to pay any property tax on it, how unfair is it that everybody else in the community's taxes are going to go up because now the tax basis is raised off of this $700,000 community?
Yeah.
That's made my prices go up as a result. And now they don't.
Not to mention the community probably doesn't want that development anyway.
Well, that is the whole debate that's going on right now, is that, at what cost are we building all of these new developments? And if somebody is doing this project because they get these tax abatements, then you can't use, to those of us who live here and are consistently paying and funding our communities in everything else that we do, you can't charge us more because you gave them a tax break.
Right.
So stop giving the tax break here on the person who's making all the money off of it.
Yeah.
Like, let them pay their fair share.
And honestly, like, let's reevaluate sales tax for things. Like in, Tennessee, Florida, they don't have a state income tax. They just have higher sales tax. So, in Ohio, we do have an income tax. Let's keep it, but let's restructure sales tax to fund schools and fund all of that stuff. There's multiple different ways. It's kind of what I'm getting at, that we can make up this money.
Well, because it's not just property taxes that fund these. We also have levies.
Yeah.
And we have other charges that come in there.
And I feel like in this area, levies are not passing.
They're not. They haven't been recently.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And it's because you have people that are on fixed incomes or that just bought in and have all of that expense. What do you mean we're going to add another $1,000 a year?
Or they're already working 2 or 3 jobs in order to make ends meet. And hey, I have to cut my grocery budget in order to make this month.
Yeah.
Why isn't the school system having to do something? And be transparent about it. I think we won't go there, but a lot of benefits maybe. Pros and cons of DOGE is the fact that it is bringing to question, if I as a business owner have to live on a budget and adjust as needed based off of income, what's going on, the market, whatever, well, I have to do that in my household.
Yeah.
It's not any different for anybody else. Just because you're a school system doesn't mean you've got carte blanche. I don't think the federal government should have carte blanche. I'm sorry. This is just because you can print the money, it's coming out of my pocket. So
Right.
I'm tired of that. Like, have some accountability to where that money is going.
Yeah.
And if you are open and honest about that, and as a homeowner in the Centerville school system and schools need money, now it's going to resonate with me. I'm going to understand because you've been open and honest about it, right?
Yeah, and then at least that money goes 100% to
Where it needs to.
wherever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And whether that be the schools or police and fire or the other thing, the library, things that pass levies.
But we just seem to get hit constantly with these special elections and all of these things that go out there. And when taxpayers are crying out, oh my gosh, why is my property tax bill 3 times as much? Why am I being charged this much money? And it's hoops to jump through in order to try to dispute it. And if it does, it doesn't happen until next year. So what kind of relief can we get now?
Yeah.
So what this is presenting is, it appears to be maybe 3-prong approach, which is good. So the 3 prongs are going to be with the immediate relief for seniors. And understanding, obviously, if you're 65 years or older, they could freeze those property taxes. That will help those who are on fixed income, who've maybe paid off the house, but now they're not selling it, so they're not reaping the reward of the higher value of it, but they're having to pay these exorbitant property taxes on that higher value, which is maybe not allowing them to have money for medical or for eating or just living,
Yeah.
right? So that's the first one. The second one is going to talk about increasing that homestead exemption. Because, in our area, I think it's the first $25,000 that you get waived. $25,000 off of the value is nothing.
Yeah.
It's not you're saving $25,000 you're just getting that knocked off of the value. That's pennies. And that number hasn't changed. So if the property value has increased from 150 where 25,000 seemed like it made some sense.
Yeah.
And now property value's 450, 25,000 is nothing, right?
Right.
So if the values are going up, then the homestead exemption should also expand. And then the last part is talking about a total overhaul of this and really determining what is needed and where those funds are going, and then having some true accountability to it.
Yeah.
And if our House isn't going to pass the bill, and they have them in there now, but now this is allowed. So now is the time that if you are on board and you think that there needs to be property tax reform, we are seeking signatures, and you don't have to be in a particular voting slate. We're obviously for Ohio, so it's anywhere in Ohio. We're going to put the link on this video where you can sign up, get the updates, and then when the petition goes live, you can start signing that. They need to collect 600,000 signatures by July 1st. So this is pretty important that if you're watching this and you've gotten to this point of our video, go ahead and click below, because that is going to be important to make sure you just sign the name.
Yeah, and if you are somebody who is, I'm going to take the petition out and I'm going to get those signatures, you cannot sign your own.
Right.
And it's by county.
Yeah.
So if you are living in Greene County, and you don't have to do it where you live either, but if you are doing one for Greene County, make sure like somebody from Montgomery County doesn't sign that petition. You can just do a second one.
Right.
And a lot of times, like husband and wife will each have one, and then they sign each other's, and that's eligible.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good advice. So hopefully we will see some reform, and hopefully if it's voted on this year, if the House doesn't do it, this would allow it to be on our November ballot from the people. Mm-hmm. The people's vote, right? And then it would be hopefully in place for the next year.
Yeah.
Again, there's still a delay.
It is an off year, so usually the turnout is not high or great. But I feel like with something like this, that's that important, that there would be a higher turnout.
Yeah, I think it'll be like that ballot 2 we had before, where everybody showed up. It didn't matter that it was a special vote.
Yeah. This
is one I think a lot of people feel really passionate about, that they want to see some change. So hopefully it gets us there.
Yeah. And what is Florida is already looking at this as well, and one in the South.
Well, Texas has it. Texas and Florida. I mean, Texas has already passed, to my understanding, and Florida is in the process of getting rid of it. So, and that was the really valid point. Governor DeSantis, whatever you think about him personally or politically, the point was that, when we built this country, and it was this idea of you had land and you built your house and you weren't paying property taxes. Like, that was not a part of the equation.
Yeah, we threw the tea in the harbor because of all of this taxes, and then now the taxes are more than when we threw all the tea in the harbor.
There we go. The real tea.
I mean, it's bullshit. But
this is the time for you to stand up, to speak, to sign the petition, to let your voice be heard, and make sure, even if you're the person who likes to write an email or a letter, sending it to the House and the state, and making sure that they understand this is a priority.
Yeah.
Like, this should be number one on your job description this year of getting resolved.
And so I think our tip for the end of this episode is just a reminder to people that if you don't like something that's going on, you can always put something on the ballot. You just have to have enough signatures and it written the correct way and approved.
And this was approved, so let's go.
Let's see what happens.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today on the Real Tea Podcast. If you enjoyed the knowledge and entertainment today, please subscribe and share with your friends. We will be embarking on a journey that bridges the gap between realtors and clients, uncovering the heart and tea of real estate.